followed the room. I'm Morrison, 65 years old, a retired elementary school teacher who spent 3 decades shaping young minds and who's been a widow for 5 years. That Thanksgiving meal had been flawless until that moment. I'd spent 3 days baking pumpkin and pecan pies from scratch, hand-rolling dough for my famous cranberry tarts, and roasting a 20-pound turkey to a perfect golden brown. My dining room sparkled with my late mother's china and crystal glasses, reserved for rare celebrations. Stuart, my son, had been drinking since arriving with Jennifer, his wife of 15 years. I noticed his uneven steps and loud laughter, but stayed quiet. I learned to keep silent about his drinking after a Christmas long ago when he told me to stop nagging. Mid-meal, he asked, "Mom, when will you sell this big old house?" "It's too much for you." "I'm not planning to sell," I said softly, passing mashed potatoes to my granddaughter, Lily. Jennifer's voice turned sweet, but her eyes stayed cold. "Think of the maintenance and the taxes. At your age, you should downsize." I repeated her words in my head. At my age. I'm 65, not 95. Stuart scoffed. "You could barely keep track of yourself." "Last week you lost your glasses." "They were on my head," I joked, trying to lighten the mood. Jennifer didn't smile. "People who forget like that should consider assisted living." I set down my fork. "I'm perfectly capable of living on my own." "For now," Stuart muttered. "Dad left you the house, but not the money to keep it forever. Your pension won't last." What he didn't know was that Robert had left investments that kept me more than comfortable. But I never discussed finances with Stuart. Money seemed to be the only thing he truly cared about. I tried to change the subject. "Maybe next weekend we could all see the Christmas lights in the park." Stuart laughed sharply. "Mom, are you listening? We're talking about your future. Our future. This house is your only real asset." "My future is not up for discussion at Thanksgiving dinner," I said firmly. "Who wants more cranberry sauce?" That's when it happened. Stuart's face flushed deep red. He shot up so fast his chair toppled. Before I could react, he seized the platter and flung the turkey at me. "You're nothing but a burden," he shouted, voice slurred. The bird hit me square in the chest, gravy and stuffing sliding down my clothes. The platter crashed to the floor but didn't break. Silence. My grandchildren froze, forks suspended. Jennifer looked almost amused. No one moved, no one spoke. With as much dignity as I could gather, I rose, napkin trembling in my hand. "Excuse me," I whispered. "I need to change." In my bedroom, I peeled off the ruined blouse. No tears came, only a strange, steady calm. I washed my face, pulled on a clean sweater, and returned to find them eating as if nothing had happened. Stuart sipped more wine. Jennifer sat scrolling under the table, barely looking up. Only my grandchildren seemed uneasy, their eyes fixed anywhere but on me. I forced a smile that never touched my heart and asked, "Who wants dessert?" That night, after everyone left, I stood in a silent kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and untouched leftovers. The house felt emptier than it had in the 5 years since Robert passed. I lifted a framed photo of Stuart as a gap-toothed little boy grinning in my arms. "What happened to you?" I whispered. "When did I become just a house and a bank account to you?" Something inside me shifted. The polite smiles and careful pretending I'd lived by for decades were gone. A cold, steady resolve settled in their place. I would never let anyone, least of all my own son, humiliate me again. A week later, I was still moving through my days like a ghost, replaying the moment gravy slid down my blouse, while Stuart's words rang in my head. Sleep and appetite had both abandoned me. That Tuesday afternoon, I was dusting the living room shelves when I heard the front door open. Stuart had a key I'd given him long ago for emergencies. My heart tightened. I wasn't ready to face him, but instead of calling out, I heard low voices in the foyer. "I don't think she's home," Jennifer said. "Her car's gone." My car was in the shop. A neighbor had dropped me off after lunch. "Good," Stuart replied. "I need to check something in Dad's office." I froze, hidden by the wall as they walked toward Robert's study, my private sanctuary, still faintly scented of his pipe tobacco. "The sooner we get her into Cedar Grove, the better," Jennifer murmured. "My cousin says a room opens next month." Cedar Grove, the upscale retirement place on the edge of town. "Mom won't go willingly," Stuart said. Jennifer gave a soft laugh. "Your little turkey episode didn't help." I lost my temper, Stuart said, defensive. But she's getting worse. Forgetful. Stubborn. We just need to document it. Dr. Campbell will help. Once we prove diminished capacity, the power of attorney takes effect. I pressed a hand to the wall to keep steady. Power of attorney. The document I'd signed years ago after Robert died, trusting Stuart completely. The house will sell fast, Stuart continued. Market's hot. We can get at least $700,000. After Cedar Grove's entrance fee and monthly costs, we'll have plenty left. Enough to redo the kitchen and take that Europe trip, Jennifer added lightly. My knees nearly gave way. They weren't planning for my well-being. They were planning their dream vacation with the proceeds of my home. What about her pension? Jennifer asked. $4,000 a month, Stuart said. More than enough for her basics. The rest can go to Max's college fund. They spoke as if I were a line item in a budget, not their mother and grandmother. We should start moving valuables soon, Jennifer suggested. The silver, the antiques. She probably won't notice. Next week, Stuart agreed. I'll tell her it's for insurance appraisals. I'd heard enough. Moving with a quiet strength I didn't know I had, I slipped back toward the kitchen. My hands trembled as I filled the kettle and set it on the stove, trying to process the betrayal. 20 minutes later, I heard them getting ready to leave. I switched on the radio to signal I was home. Stuart appeared in the doorway, startled. Mom, I didn't know you were here. Where's your car? In the shop, I said evenly, stirring my tea. Jane gave me a ride after lunch. Stuart looked momentarily flustered. We just stopped by to check if you needed anything, he said. How thoughtful, I replied, meeting his eyes without blinking. I'm fine, thank you. After they left, I sat at the kitchen table, my tea cooling in the cup. The betrayal felt like a wound, sharp and aching. My own son was plotting to have me declared unfit, to sell my home, and tuck me away in a facility as if I were a forgotten piece of furniture. That evening I went to Robert's study and opened the drawer of his old desk. Behind a stack of folders sat a small fireproof box, the place where we had always kept our most important papers. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Inside were documents Stuart had never seen. Investment statements, stock certificates, insurance policies. Robert had been far more financially savvy than our son ever realized. Between those investments and my own pension, I had close to $1 million in assets, without even counting the house. I was not helpless. I was far from dependent. The next morning, I called my bank and scheduled a meeting with a financial advisor. Then I contacted Martha Reynolds, a trusted realtor whose children I'd once taught. Inns, what a lovely surprise, she greeted me when I arrived at her office. I need to sell my house, I said, steady and firm. Quietly and quickly. Please keep this between us. Her eyebrows lifted. You're beautiful, Victorian? You've lived there forever. It's time for a change, I replied. And Martha, I don't want my son to know until it's done. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Of course. We can list it privately to keep things discreet. As I left her office, an unexpected feeling surged through me, a sense of power. For too long I had allowed Stuart to define the terms of our relationship, to treat me as if I were small and irrelevant. No more. They believed I was a frail woman they could manipulate. They were about to learn how wrong they were. For the next week, I lived a double life. Outwardly, nothing had changed. Grocery runs, book club, polite chats when Stuart called. But behind that calm surface, a plan was taking shape. True to her word, Martha listed the house quietly. Within 3 days, she phoned with news that made my heart race. Inns, you won't believe this. I have a couple, the Hendersons, who've been searching for a historic Victorian in your neighborhood for months. They love your home and are offering the full price, all cash, with a flexible closing date. That's wonderful, I managed, gripping the phone. They don't want to alter a thing, she added. They adore the original woodwork, the stained glass. Everything. Tears pricked my eyes. Robert had spent years restoring those details, sanding banisters, repairing each pane of colored glass. Knowing the house would be cherished eased the ache of letting it go. Tomorrow afternoon would be perfect, I told her. Stuart never visited on Wednesdays. After hanging up, I sipped my tea and considered my next move. I needed a destination where Stuart would never think to look. Flipping through my address book, I stopped at the R section. Rose Tillman, my college roommate. We'd exchanged Christmas cards for decades, and just months ago, she'd mentioned her spare bedroom in a Florida retirement community. I dialed. Rose, it's Inns Morrison. Inns? What a wonderful surprise. How are you, dear? I need a change, I said, choosing my words carefully. I remember you offered me a room. Say no more, Rose replied warmly. The room is yours as long as you need it. Sunshine Village is beautiful. You'll love it. When can I expect you? 3 weeks, I said. I have a few things to settle first. After we hung up, I made a detailed list. Hire a moving company for what I plan to keep. Decide what to donate. Forward my mail to a P.O. box. Move my banking to national institutions. Update my will. The house Stuart and Jennifer coveted so much would soon be sold, and I had no intention of leaving them a single penny from its sale. The next afternoon, the Hendersons returned, their teenagers trailing behind as they admired every detail of the old house. We can close in 2 weeks if that works for you, Mr. Henderson said, eyes bright with excitement. 2 weeks is perfect, I replied, surprised at how steady my voice felt. That evening, Stuart called. Mom, Jennifer, and I are coming for dinner Sunday. There's something important we need to discuss. I could guess the topic, Cedar Grove, complete with glossy brochures and gentle pressure. That sounds lovely, I said warmly. I'll make your favorite pot roast. Great. And Mom, maybe don't mention it to the kids. This is more of an adult conversation. Of course it was. They wouldn't want the grandchildren watching while they tried to convince me I couldn't live on my own. After hanging up, I scheduled the movers for the day after closing, arranged a donation pickup for most of my furniture, and set an appointment to close my local bank accounts. Each call made my plan feel more real and completely final. Now and then, doubt crept in during the quiet evenings. Was I being too harsh? But the memory of that Thanksgiving, turkey sliding down my blouse while everyone sat silent, burned away any hesitation. This wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. Sunday arrived. Stuart and Jennifer came with a bottle of wine and carefully practiced smiles. We chatted about the weather, Jennifer's garden club, and nothing of substance until dessert. Mom, Stuart began, clearing his throat. We've been worried about you in this big house all alone. Jennifer pulled a glossy brochure from her purse. There's a wonderful community called Cedar Grove, she said brightly. It's not a nursing home. It's more like a luxury village with every level of care. They even have an opening next month. I picked up the brochure and pretended to study the smiling seniors on its cover. That's thoughtful of you, I said, keeping my tone neutral. It makes financial sense, Stuart added quickly. This place is worth a fortune, but costs a fortune to maintain. At Cedar Grove, everything's taken care of, and you'd have company. And what about the house? I asked, eyes steady. We'd help you sell it, of course, Stuart said smoothly. The proceeds would cover Cedar Grove and leave you a nice nest egg. I see. Well, I appreciate you thinking of me. Let me consider it. Their relief was obvious. You're making the right decision, Mom, Stuart said, giving my shoulder a squeeze as they left. You'll be happier there. I smiled and waved from the porch, watching their car disappear. Little did they know that in just 10 days this house would belong to the Hendersons, and I would be gone. The next 2 weeks passed in a quiet, purposeful rhythm. At dawn each morning, I sorted through decades of possessions, keeping only what mattered. My wedding china would one day go to Lily, my granddaughter, not to Stuart and Jennifer's kitchen renovation. A friend from my book club agreed to store it safely. By Tuesday, I was ready for the final step. I met with Benjamin Lewis, the attorney who had handled Robert's estate. This is a big change, Benjamin said after I explained everything. Are you certain? More certain than I've been about anything in years, I replied. And you'd like to revise your will, remove Stuart as a primary beneficiary? Not entirely, I clarified. I'm setting up a trust for my grandchildren's education. But Stuart and Jennifer will no longer be first in line. Benjamin looked up from his notes, his expression serious. You know they could challenge this, he said quietly, claiming you aren't of sound mind. I smiled faintly. That's why I'd like you to arrange an independent evaluation, today if possible, I told Benjamin. By Wednesday evening, I held a notarized letter from a respected geriatric psychiatrist confirming that I was fully competent. My will was updated. The house closing was scheduled for the next morning. Every box was either packed for Florida, donated, or marked for storage. That night, I walked through each room, fingertips brushing the familiar wallpaper. Memories surfaced with every step. Christmas mornings when Stuart was small and wide-eyed. Lively dinner parties filled with friends' laughter. and the quiet hours of Robert's final days when we held hands and whispered our goodbyes. In the bedroom, I opened my jewelry box and fastened around my neck the gold locket Robert had given me on our first anniversary. Inside, the tiny photo of our younger selves smiled back, a reminder of love that still guided me. Downstairs, I unlocked the desk in Robert's study and finally opened the small leather journal I'd avoided for years. October 15th, 1995. Stuart brought home another failing grade today. Enns has infinite patience with him. I worry. At 16, he shows little ambition. I see a selfishness that troubles me. I flipped ahead. June 3rd, 2005. Stuart and Jennifer want a house beyond their means. He hinted that he expects our help with the down payment. I fear we're enabling him. A lump formed in my throat. Robert had seen what I'd refused to see. Stuart's quiet entitlement, the assumption that we would always rescue him. I closed the journal and placed it carefully in my suitcase. Some truths hurt, but they also set you free. Thursday morning dawned bright and clear. I dressed in a blue suit I rarely wore, a quiet statement of resolve, and signed the closing papers with calm certainty. The Hendersons beamed with excitement. The lawyers were brisk and efficient. When everything was finished, Mrs. Henderson handed me a sealed envelope. "We wanted you to have this," she said warmly. Inside was a handwritten note thanking me for entrusting them with the home and a gift certificate for a local nursery. "For your next garden, wherever it may be," the note read. Their kindness brought unexpected tears. Back at the house, no longer truly mine, I checked the closets one last time. A small rental car waited in the driveway, packed for the long drive south. My phone rang. "Stuart, Mom, I was thinking of stopping by tonight. Maybe we can talk more about Cedar Grove." I kept my tone light. "Tonight's not good, dear. My book club runs late. How about Sunday dinner instead?" "Perfect," he said, sounding pleased. "Jennifer found more resources about transitioning to retirement living. We'll bring them along." "That sounds lovely," I replied. "See you Sunday at 5? I hung up and looked around the quiet house. By Sunday at 5, I would be halfway to Florida, and Stuart would be standing on the Hendersons' porch, finally facing the reality of his own choices. That evening, I made one last circuit, whispering silent farewells. To the kitchen where I'd cooked thousands of meals. To the living room where birthdays and holidays came alive. To the bedroom where Robert and I had shared our most private moments. I wasn't abandoning a life. I was carrying its best pieces with me. As night settled, I sat on the porch swing, listening to the gentle creak of its chains and watching fireflies spark across the garden. A calm I hadn't felt in years washed over me. Tomorrow promised a new beginning, a life reclaimed. My phone chimed. A text from Rose. "All ready for your arrival. Weather's beautiful. Can't wait to see you." I smiled and typed back. "Looking forward to it. I'll call when I'm on the road." No one else knew of my plans. Not my book club, not former colleagues, not even the neighbors who'd waved to me for decades. I would write to them later, once I was settled. Tomorrow, before Stuart could arrive with his glossy brochures and careful arguments, I would already be gone, free, independent, and finally at peace. For now, my leaving would be as quiet as the secret plans Stuart and Jennifer had made for me. The night air turned chilly, so I stepped inside for one last cup of tea in the kitchen that would soon belong to someone else. As the kettle whistled, I caught myself humming, a sound I hadn't made in years. Tomorrow, for the first time in decades, I would answer only to myself. The thought was equal parts terrifying and exhilarating, but underneath the nerves grew something stronger. Hope. Friday morning arrived with gentle sunlight spilling across the bedroom. Technically, the Hendersons' bedroom now. Surprisingly, I'd slept well. Perhaps because for the first time in years, I felt fully in control. At 8 sharp, the moving crew appeared. They loaded my few possessions, a beloved reading chair, my grandmother's writing desk, 3 boxes of books, 5 boxes of personal keepsakes. "Is that really all, ma'am?" one asked, glancing at the small load. "That's all," I said with a smile. "I'm downsizing, dramatically." By 10 o'clock, they were gone, heading to a storage facility 2 hours away, far from anywhere Stuart might look. I walked the empty rooms one last time. In the kitchen, I left a bottle of wine and a note wishing the Hendersons happiness. On the mantel, I placed a sealed envelope for Stuart. "Stuart, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I have sold the house and moved away. Please don't try to find me. When I'm ready, I'll reach out. I know about Cedar Grove. I know you plan to sell my home without my consent. I raised you better, Mom. No accusations, no drama, just truth. At noon, I locked the door, slid the key under the mat for the new owners, and loaded my rental car. 1 suitcase, a cooler of snacks, essential papers, Robert's journal. A wave of emotion rolled through me. 40 years of memories, raising Stuart, loving Robert, building a life, rested inside those walls. But the house was no longer my life. It was simply a structure, ready for a new family's laughter. First stop, the bank, where I closed my remaining local accounts and collected a cashier's check for the sale proceeds. Combined with my other investments, I now had more than enough to live comfortably, completely independent. Next, the post office. Moving somewhere warm for retirement? The clerk asked with a smile. Something like that, I replied, offering none of the story behind it. My final stop was the cemetery. I placed a bouquet of yellow roses, Robert's favorite, on his headstone. I'm leaving Robert, I whispered. Not just the house, but Stuart, too. You saw what he was becoming long before I did. I kept making excuses. No more. A soft breeze stirred the trees overhead, and I chose to take it as his blessing. I touched the locket at my throat. Wish me luck. By 2 o'clock, I was on the interstate, GPS set for Rose's address in Florida. The farther I drove, the lighter I felt. I'd spent 35 years teaching in the same town, living a steady, quiet life. Now at 65, I was setting out on the most daring adventure of my life. I pictured Stuart and Jennifer arriving Sunday at 5, expecting dinner and a sales pitch for Cedar Grove. Instead, they would find new owners and my letter. Would Stuart feel anger, shock, perhaps a flicker of concern, but likely more for the inheritance he'd lost than for my well-being? I let the thought drift away. His feelings were no longer my responsibility. The road stretched ahead, bright with late afternoon sun, and for the first time in decades, I felt entirely free, answerable to no one but myself, and finally ready for whatever came next. For decades, I had placed Stuart's comfort above my own, his needs, his convenience, his schedule. That chapter was finished. I stopped for the night at a modest hotel in Virginia. After checking in, I called Rose to update her. I'm about halfway there, I said. If traffic behaves, I should arrive tomorrow evening. I can't wait to see you, Rose replied. The guest room is ready, and a few neighbors are planning a welcome dinner. You're going to love it here. I'm sure I will, I answered, surprised by how certain I felt. When I hung up, the weight of what I'd done settled over me. I'd left my home, my community, an entire lifetime behind. For a flicker of a moment, doubt whispered, was I running away instead of standing my ground? I reached for Robert's journal and opened to an entry I'd marked while packing. May 10th, 2010. Inns gives too much of herself, always has. To her students, to the community, to Stuart. Everyone takes and takes, and she keeps giving. I worry what will happen when I'm gone. Who will protect her interests when she's too busy protecting everyone else? I closed the journal, resolve settling in. I wasn't running. I was finally, after all these years, putting myself first. Robert would have approved. Sunday arrived. At precisely 5 o'clock, I checked my watch, imagining the scene playing out hundreds of miles away. Stuart and Jennifer pulling into the driveway, noticing the unfamiliar car, trying the key that no longer fit the lock. Their surprise when strangers answered the door. The silence as they read my letter and realized every plan they had made for me had unraveled. The house they coveted was gone. The mother they had underestimated had moved beyond their reach. I felt no malice, only a quiet sadness for what our relationship had become, and a fierce determination to claim the years ahead on my own terms. 3 weeks after that unforgettable Thanksgiving, I had sold my home and disappeared without a trace. Stuart once hurled a turkey and called me useless. Now he knew exactly how capable I was. 1 year later, I sat on the balcony of my Florida condominium, the evening sky ablaze with orange and rose. A glass of iced tea beaded with condensation beside me as the scent of jasmine floated up from the garden. This had become my favorite time of day, a calm pause before meeting friends for dinner or a community movie night. My life in Sunshine Village had blossomed beyond anything I'd imagined. Within weeks, I joined the chorus, made close friends, and begun volunteering at the local elementary school, helping children who struggled with reading. The joy of guiding young minds again was a gift I hadn't known I needed. My condo was smaller than my Victorian, but it was entirely mine, purchased outright with a portion of the house proceeds. The rest was invested carefully, ensuring independence for the years ahead. Rose had been right. I loved it here. The residents were lively and curious, shattering every tired stereotype about aging. We explored museums, took classes, and shared laughter late into the night. 6 months after I arrived, Arthur Williams, a retired history professor with a warm smile and a dry wit, invited me to dinner. Our friendship deepened slowly and naturally. Just last week, he'd taken me sailing at sunset, our conversation drifting from books to travel to the thrill of second chances. As I watched the fading light, my phone buzzed with a message from Arthur. Still on for dinner at 7? Tried the new Italian place, made us a reservation. I smiled, typed a quick yes, and set the phone down. My thoughts drifted back to that first night on the road, the fear, the uncertainty. All of it had brought me here, to freedom, to friendship, to love. Stuart had tried to reach me in the early days, his messages swinging between anger and false concern. "Mom, where are you? You can't just sell the house. That was my inheritance." But those words no longer carried power. My life was my own. I stood and looked out at the glowing horizon, the ocean breeze brushing my cheek. For the first time in decades, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Free, fulfilled, and entirely myself. For decades, I had centered my life on Stuart, his needs, his convenience, while he grew more dismissive of me. That part of my life was over. He eventually found me. 2 months after I left, Stuart appeared at Sunshine Village, somehow talking his way past the security gate. I was returning from a walk when I saw him in the lobby, his face flushed with anger. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he demanded. "You sold our family home without telling me. You disappeared without a word." Arthur stepped quietly to my side. "Is everything all right, Enz?" "I left you a letter," I said evenly to my son. "A letter?" Stuart sputtered. "A 3-sentence note after abandoning your family? After destroying our plans?" "Your plans," I corrected. "Plans you made without me. Plans to declare me incompetent, to take my home." His face paled. "That's not... Please don't lie," I said gently. "I heard you and Jennifer in your father's study. Cedar Grove, power of attorney, renovating your kitchen with the sale." Neighbors had paused to watch. Stuart shifted, uneasy. "Can we talk somewhere private?" he asked, voice low. I led him to the community garden, public enough for comfort, private enough for honesty. "What you did was cruel," he began. "Disappearing like that. Do you know how worried we were?" "Worried?" I asked. "Or angry your plans fell apart?" "You don't understand. We were trying to help you. By declaring me incompetent? By putting me in a facility against my will?" "Cedar Grove is a nice place," he said weakly. "And you're getting older. Living alone isn't practical." I studied the man before me, searching for the little boy who once brought me dandelions and handmade Mother's Day cards. That child was gone, replaced by someone who viewed me as an asset to manage. "Stuart," I said at last, "I'm not moving anywhere you choose. I'm living here, among friends, building a life I love. I'm financially secure and mentally sound. There's a psychiatrist's evaluation on file with my attorney." His expression hardened. "And what about us? Your family? My grandchildren are always welcome. As for you and Jennifer, only if you can accept me as I am, an independent woman capable of her own decisions." He left soon after, promising to think about it. 6 months passed before I heard from him again, this time a formal email apologizing and asking to start over. We now speak occasionally, cautiously. The relationship survives only where mutual respect exists. Jennifer rarely joins the calls. Some bridges stay half-mended, and that's fine. My phone buzzed, pulling me back to the present. A video call from Lily, my 15-year-old granddaughter. "Grandma, guess what? I got the lead in the school play." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me everything." As she chattered about rehearsals and costumes, I felt a quiet joy. This bond remained pure and strong, untouched by the tension with her parents. After our call, I dressed for dinner with Arthur. In the mirror, I barely recognized the woman who'd once stood in her dining room, drenched in gravy and humiliation. This woman stood taller, smiled more easily, lived more fully. Stuart's cruel words had been meant to break me. Instead, they sparked my freedom. I clasped Robert's locket around my neck, the one piece of my old life I wear every day. "You'd be proud," I whispered. Neighbors greeted me warmly as I stepped outside. Here I wasn't just Stuart's mother or Robert's widow. I was En's the friend, the volunteer, the chorus member, the book club leader, a woman who found the courage to start over at 65. That Thanksgiving incident was supposed to mark my lowest point. Instead, it became the beginning of my best chapter. Stuart once called me useless. In walking away, I found my power, my voice, and myself. And now I turn to you. What would you do in my place? Have you ever faced a moment where you had to reclaim your life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for watching until the end, and don't miss the 2 videos on your screen now. They're audience favorites and full of surprises.